The original title for this particular article is about Elvis's dick causing a riot.
Yeah, I wrote what I wrote. It's all true, folks. That's what makes it funny. To many people, the lasting image they have in their minds of Elvis Presley is that of a fat, sweaty guy in a crisp, immaculately pressed white jumpsuit flopping around on stage in Vegas. As a result, it's easy to forget that in his younger days, Elvis was a teenage heartthrob, to such an extent that in an appearance on one show, he was literally filmed from the waist up out of fear of the effect his gyrating penis would have on viewers at home.
Well, Elvis was always a bit of a bad boy, wasn't he?
Not really, no. That's something he lent into at the behest of his publicists and things like that, because when he first made his foray into music, he styled himself as a good-hearted Christian boy with dusty blonde hair and kindly southern sensibilities, as early promotional shots of him show.
It's hard to imagine Elvis being like a nice, kind Christian boy.
We think he always was. That's the thing. Even during his jailhouse rock days, even later in his life when he was the mega star, performing on stage in Vegas, everything like that, he was always a really nice guy. And there's plenty of stories about him, just just walking around, just helping people. And we've discussed before his crippling habit of giving away Cadillacs. He didn't people who didn't watch that video. Elvis had as I mentioned, a habit of just giving people cars as a tip, including one time a limo driver who he asked, "How much do you normally make in tips?" And he went, "On a good day, I can make maybe a couple of dollars." And Elvis went, "Well, fuck that," and handed him the keys to the car he was driving because the limo was his tip. And shit like that. And there are other stories like Elvis learned karate and would drive around with a police siren on top, helping the police.
Vigilante Elvis.
Yeah, one of the have you ever heard about Elvis's obsession with the police?
Oh, no, this came up a bit when I was doing research for the other video.
Okay, yeah.
Because he went to the shop he went to get the sandwich we mentioned with the police.
Yes, because one of the things Elvis always asked for whenever he performed a show in a new city was a police badge from your local, police station, and to be made an honorary member of your police force, which most police forces were happy to do, because, who doesn't want to count, the king amongst their ranks? But, Elvis didn't just, take these badges and collect them. Once he had one, he would pretend to be a policeman, to the point where, at night, he would just sit in his car listening to a police scanner and turn up to emergencies to help.
I love the idea of Elvis being a vigilante, because imagine if there was a guy committing a robbery and Elvis turns up, knocks him out, and then as the guy's coming to, you hear Elvis running away saying, "No one will believe you." Yeah,
the thing is though, right, like I said, he was a black belt in karate, and he even had his own specialised gi that was made to look like one of his jumpsuits. There's a story like Alice Cooper, the rock star. Elvis was showing him some of his kung fu karate moves, and he handed him a loaded gun. And he said, "Just try to get one over on me, and I'll show you a karate move." And Alice Cooper recounts that I genuinely considered pulling the trigger at that moment, because then I would always be remembered as the guy who shot Elvis. But before that thought could even finish percolating in his mind, Elvis had kicked the gun out of his hand and got him in a chokehold. The guy did not fuck around. There's one story that may or may not be true, but is recounted by Elvis fans as if it is. Where he was driving down the road one time and saw a couple of guys beating up another guy on the floor. Elvis pulled up, got out of his car, assumed a karate stance, said, "Let's make this fight even. Who fucking wants some?" Everyone was so starstruck, they all stood up and just asked for an autograph.
So the bad boy image that we all know Elvis to have...
No, young Elvis. When you're talking about Elvis, you've got to draw a distinction between young, cool, hip, rock and roll Elvis and fat legend Elvis. I don't know about you, Brad, but do you ever get pissed off when you hear the words Elvis impersonator? And they impersonate fat, sweaty Vegas Elvis instead of hip, young, suave, king of rock and roll Elvis, when you actually had the physical capabilities to do all the cool shit he was known for.
Yeah, you do always see white, fat suit, pompadour Elvis when people are doing the impersonation.
No one ever impersonates young Elvis, rockabilly Elvis, even though that I'd say is the coolest version of Elvis. Maybe it's not the one that's most iconic, but it's the one that I think had the most stage charisma. So obviously later in his career, he was in Vegas, he was headlining the stage in Vegas every single night. That's cool, but I think it's more impressive that when he was a younger man, he was still causing the same effect with his crowds just because he was singing and playing guitar, as opposed to having a giant stage show behind him. It's the famous image, I'm not sure if we'll be able to share it because obviously it might be copyrighted by someone, but there's a great image out there of Hendrix when he was on stage, and it shows you his setup, and it's a guitar and some speakers, and that's it. He has no pedals, it's just Hendrix and his guitar. And I think that's more impressive than like if he had an entire light show behind him. Because like he's bringing down the house. He's got all those people saying he's got one fucking instrument. Similar to like Adele. Yeah. Like when Adele's on stage and like you have all these singers getting like massive fucking like stage shows and Adele just rocks up and just I'm just going to sing. It's like I'm fucking Adele in it.
Was that one of the things that Freddie Mercury is most well known for? Is the note around the world?
Yeah, when he sang the high pitched note at Live Aid, like completely without the backing of his band at all. It's like, and he held the entire audience in his hand. And it's one of those moments that you look back and go, that could never happen in the modern age, because you just see like 1,000 fucking mobile phone cameras pointed at him, and then some dickhead like throwing an inflatable crocodile into the crowd.
What's the funniest thing you've ever seen get thrown around a crowd?
At a festival, the classic's the condom.
The condom's the classic,
Like, a blown up condom's the classic, but I did say, the reason I mentioned like a big inflatable crocodile, is I went to Leeds Fest one year, and I was watching, I think it was Zebrahead. People brought wheelie bins and put them into the middle. People stood on top of wheelie bins, throwing a big inflatable crocodile around. And it's one of those ones that you have in a pool, and people were riding on it and like getting carried around on the crowd like water.
I remember when I think it was the Bowling for Soup gig I went to. There was a condom going around. It landed on the stage. And they picked it up, drew a face on it, and threw it back out.
Yeah.
So there's a condom with a face on it.
I do like when bands, like, you know, they just get involved to like that degree instead of getting pissed off about it.
The best one I've ever seen is the Decemberists. And they brought their own balloon for their song. And it's because the song's about a whale attack. They had this enormous whale.
That's fucking...
And had people carrying it on strings around the stage. And as they kept pulling it down so the audience could whack it into the air.
That's amazing. I love that thing. But at the same time, I think if you look back and watch that Live Aid footage and they were just like beach balls bouncing around and just like some person like off the face on ketamine just like starting a fist fight or windmilling in the middle of the thing.
Just imagine Freddie Mercury about to go for the high note and gets hit in the face by an inflatable condom with a little face drawn on it.
It's like, for fuck's sake.
So anyway, the point I was going to make...
Oh, sorry, yes.
Bad boy Elvis, where did he come from?
It was like a combination of Elvis himself and his publicist who told him like people love your music, but you need to like, you need to razz up your image. Like, you're popular with the younger people, and what the young people like is rock and roll. So Elvis styled himself as rock and roll. Like, he still sung a lot of gospel songs, which is one of like the things that got him famous. But obviously he dyed his hair black, started wearing tight t-shirts and jeans and a leather jacket, styled it in the pompadour that we all know, started playing guitar on stage, and most pertinent to today's topic of conversation, started thrusting his dick towards the audience like an absolute champ.
And I'm assuming this is what coincided with the change in his audience as well.
Yeah, because obviously Elvis was always popular with like a wide demographic, but when he his Jailhouse Rock days and he became like when he became like this version of Elvis, that's when like, obviously his teenage girl fan base just like exploded, and he became basically like one of the first superstars of rock and roll. And there's like numerous photos out there. Again, I don't know if we'll be able to show, but there's a famous one of like a girl at an Elvis concert, and she looks like she's mid-exorcism. Like she's holding onto the back of a chair. She's going, ah! Like she's almost going Super Saiyan. I'm not even fucking kidding. See if you can track that photo down. It's fucking amazing. That's like the effects he had on people at his shows. And like there were reports of people like outright just fainting or getting into fist fights because they're just so excited.
I imagine it's like the effect that Bieber had when he first started.
Yeah, all the Beatles. It's a phenomenon that has been seen with musicians like since musicians were a thing. Like we talked before about Franz Liszt.
I was going to say
yeah, like the very like people don't know that was a thing. Franz Liszt, the famous pianist, was like known as like the first rock star because he was a pianist, but he was like a virtuoso pianist. He would basically play the keyboard like you'd see like an 80s hair metal guitarist play the guitar. He'd play it one-handed. He'd flip his hair back and forth like he was like a lion just headbanging along to Metallica. He would like throw parts of his clothing into the crowd, and women went mental for it. Like women would like hang around behind like after the show. He had groupies. People would like get his gloves and shove them down their cleavage and stuff like that. They're getting to sign things. And like the thing as well, what I love is that he played the piano so hard they'd explode. Like we talked before, didn't we? Like he'd specifically tune his pianos so they will break during his performances, like akin to the Sex Pistols, like destroying a guitar with a fucking like £4,000 piano. The guy was insane. And obviously that's a thing that's been observed over time. You had it with Elvis, you had it with the Beatles, Bieber, One Direction. It's crazy.
I'll have you know, Karl, I've been waiting for Liszt to come back up.
Why?
Because I wanted an opportunity to mention Listomania.
Yeah, Listomania. I wrote an article on it.
Do you remember me sending you the screenshot from that film, though?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a film called Listomania, and when I was trying to find clips to use in the Liszt video, I found a clip of the guy playing Liszt riding a giant model penis surrounded by women. Do you remember this? Do you remember the picture? Because I sent you it like, this is what I'm watching, Karl. This is what you make me do for a job.
Hey, man, it's all right.
But I couldn't put the clip in because A, it wasn't relevant, and B, it's a guy riding a cock. So I presume, considering what happened last time we put a penis in a video.
Yeah, we better not put that in.
But this is probably going the wrong one anyway. But it's just, I just wanted to mention that because I was like, there's never going to be an opportunity, I think, to ever mention the
Bring it up again,
exists. So why is the dick thrusting so important?
Because it eventually became a staple of Elvis's repertoire and became one of his most reliable on-stage moves, and is something he is now synonymous with. Hence the nickname for him, Elvis the Pelvis. And like, people might think we're making this up, but no, Elvis was well known for his big swinging dick to such an extent. On his very first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, like a producer genuinely considered filming him from the waist up because he was wearing really baggy trousers, through which you could clearly see the contours of his massive throbbing Elvis cock. And I am not making that bit up either, because there is like genuinely stories right about the size of Elvis's manhood. One of which comes from that producer in like an autobiography or some shit, who like unironically compares it to a full-size Coke bottle. With that in mind, imagine the effect this ginormous pendulous dong had on, like, you know, these repressed 1950s like era teenage girls seeing this for the first time as it's just swinging around on stage at 1,000 miles an hour. It's like, it's no wonder he became known as Elvis the Pelvis. And it's rumoured that one of the reasons that Elvis wore like baggy trousers for his first couple of years on stage is specifically because his dick was that big. And honestly,
he knew.
Yeah, he knew as well. The thing is, though, when he changed like, you know, tight leather trousers, it got even worse. He just looked like he was like smuggling a budgie down there or some shit. And he was famous for it. But before we get on to, like, you know, the meat of this article, like, you know, both metaphorically and literally, let's just like take a step back and discuss the best dick thrust. Because Elvis is up there. Elvis's dick thrust is famous and cannot be ignored. But there are some other pretty good dick thrusts out there. And what's your favourite, Brad?
Well, I'll start by submitting from the first Johnny English movie.
Starting with a curveball, I like it.
The bit at the end when there's the footage of him dancing in the bathroom. There's a bit when the beat comes in for the song, it's going do 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 do, where you see him thrusting in the shower, and I broke down because you can see. I'm not sure like whether it's just the fabric, but there is definitely something slamming against that fabric.
There's definitely some schwang there. You can't stop it. Well, I'm gonna throw out, you know, the legend himself, Crash Bandicoot.
Ooh.
Because Crash Bandicoot, when you get like, you know, when you get all the boxes in a level, does like the famous Crash dance, which involves like 2 straight seconds of just like rapid crotch thrusting. A move so iconic, even his fucking sister ends up doing it. Which makes me believe that dance is just genetic to like bandicoots in that universe. Like all bandicoots just like instinctively know how to do like the most baller ass dick thrust dance ever. So Brad, have you got any more examples to throw into our cavalcade of dick thrusting?
Well, considering we've just done Crash is a victory dick thrust.
Yeah, that's a distinct kind of like dick thrusting in dance moves is different to victory dick thrusting. We should draw that distinction right now because we can, and it's my video.
So, in terms of victory dick thrusting, I'm going to put out there Liar Liar.
Oh, when he wins the court case.
Yeah, because there's some mad dick thrusting in that.
Because Jim Carrey as well is such a good physical actor. Like his entire body, if I remember correctly, like, bends all the way back and then all the way forward. And he basically moves across the floor. Like, he somehow achieves velocity through pure dick thrusting. It's like, how much effort is he putting into that?
I wouldn't be surprised if I could find multiple examples of a Jim Carrey dick thrust.
Well, he does it in Ace Ventura. Like, I think Ace Ventura as well does a lot of dick thrusting, because obviously that's the kind of thing Ace Ventura does.
The Mask must do it at some point.
Yeah, but the thing is about like Ace Ventura as well, he's canonically amazing at sex. Do you remember the one with Courtney Cox Arquette?
Yeah.
And like, there's a joke in that where like they have sex like 6 times in a row, and like Ace Ventura goes, "I must be tired." So apparently, Ace Ventura is just a god of sex in that universe canonically. The thing is, I'm going to throw out like, it's not so much. This is like a combination of dancing and victory dick thrusting. So I'm going to throw out there Scotty 2 Hotty. Like, you know, rip in peace, Scotty 2 Hotty, because he used to do the worm. Do you remember that? Like Scotty 2 Hotty, Grandmaster Sexy, and Rikishi, when they were all apparently teammates in WWE, Scotty 2 Hotty would do what I consider to be the best example of the worm ever seen. And I consider the Worm just be dick thrusting on another plane. It's like, obviously, Jim Carrey dick thrusting is dick thrusting on the y-axis. Scotty Too Hot is doing it on the x-axis. And you see him, he gets so much height. And he gets so much movement out of each individual dick thrust. It's impressive. Let us know, audience at home, your favourite example of dick thrusting. Let's see if we can get this video demonetised on comment section alone, eh?
So you said for his first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show that the producers wanted to film Elvis from the waist up.
Yes, and this advice was soundly ignored, as it was for Elvis's second appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. However, by the time Elvis was due to make his third appearance on the show, he was a lot more famous, and his penchant for dick thrusting was a lot better known amongst the more conservative elements of American society. They started getting their Helen Lovejoy on and going, won't somebody please think of the children? You can't have this giant, gyrating penis on stage when there might be kids at home watching what we assume is a wholesome family entertainment show. And obviously these complaints got louder and louder and louder, and producers on the show started to get a little bit worried because they thought, well, if news of this reaches advertisers, they might get skittish and pull advertising from our show. Not to mention, a riot might break out. And people at home might think that's hyperbole or a joke, and it is absolutely not. Riots frequently broke out at Elvis shows, which producers were obviously keenly aware of, and they thought, well, if we've got Elvis fans and people who don't like Elvis in the audience, a riot will definitely break out because those two groups are going to clash. So what they did is they settled on a solution in the form of only filming Elvis from the waist up for that performance. And the fact that's made all the more hilarious when you realise the first song Elvis sung during that appearance was a gospel song. Which, to be fair, was followed by one of his jailhouse rock hits, during which he thrusted like a madman, while the audience at the show seeing it live just screamed endlessly at. But I just find that amazingly hilarious.
Not to ruin your flow, but
okay.
You've missed a bit out.
Have I?
Yeah.
Shit.
Look at the introduction.
Oh, the bit about effigies.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I lost my words then, though.
It's fine, I've got them. Don't worry. Fun fact, people at home, before we get to the end of this video and the article that I've written there, draw back that curtain. People were literally burning effigies of Elvis when they found out he was going to make this third appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, because that's what people do to show their displeasure at something, apparently. And I can only hope that those effigies of Elvis were anatomically correct and all sported giant raging erections, because that image is just too hilarious. I touched on it briefly a few sentences ago, but do you know what makes this overreaction to the dick of Elvis all the more hilarious? As we talked about right at the start, Elvis was a good, kind-hearted Christian boy who always said please and thank you all the time, and he opened that set with a gospel song. Admittedly, it was a gospel song which he sang while dick thrusting beams of pure sex energy into the eyes of the audience, but at the end of the day, isn't that what Jesus would want?
So as we often do on this channel, we look at groups of people and pit them against each other based on a particular factor or facet of their personality or lives.
Yes.
So since we've been talking about various people with big dick energy,
yes,
who would you say out of everyone has the biggest and the most dick energy?
Yeah, we can talk about that, but the first thing I want to clarify for yourself and the audience at home, that having a big swinging dick doesn't mean you literally have to have a ginormous penis. So I'd say Katharine Hepburn could be described as having a big swinging dick or big dick energy, because we've talked about before, haven't we? She did not give a fuck and would walk around wearing a pantsuit sharp enough to give a Diamond Shark paper cuts. And I think that in itself displays big dick energy without necessarily having the big dick to back it up. So I think Elvis, Elvis is he's probably up there, to be fair, just because obviously I think he just lived his life in a way that he wanted to. We've talked before, obviously, he physically had a large penis. He would swing it around on stage to such an extent that people literally had to film him from the waist up to stop the big dick energy from escaping. And then later in his career, I think he died on the toilet having a shit and then would fly across the country to eat sandwiches. That's pretty hard to fucking top. I don't know who you're going to throw into the arena to try and face Elvis at this point.
Well, the audience is obviously expecting us to slide in with David Bowie.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't we want to do a skit about how much big dick energy David Bowie had?
Yeah, we compared his tremendous amounts of big dick energy against the dick energy not held by Superman. I believe that was the context.
All right, fair enough. We do a lot of dumb shit on this channel that I forget. Yeah, David Bowie, he probably would like enter the big dick wars and would do all right. Because obviously, one, he reinvented himself so many times. So I think each iteration of David Bowie would have its own entrance into, like, let's say it's the Royal Rumble. And let's say it starts with Elvis. Like, David Bowie would be like Mick Foley, who entered the Royal Rumble multiple times under his different personas. Like, he went in as like Cactus Jack and Mankind and Mick Foley and Dude Love and all that. So he used to go in multiple times. I think that's what David Bowie would do.
Yeah.
Like, he'd go in as David Bowie, then he'd go in as like Ziggy Stardust, and then he'd go in as like the Thin White Duke. And that's how he'd compete. But even that, I don't think like he'd be able to compete with just like the sheer amount of just like swagger that Elvis had.
Do you reckon Elvis would just knock him out of the ring with the dick thrust?
I think he would, yeah. Because like David Bowie wasn't really known that much for like,
Just getting bottled.
Yeah, he wasn't known for his physicality, really, was he? He was more known for just like having like commanding presence. Which in like, you know, a battle of like big swaggering dick energy, I'm not sure it could just compete with like the sheer physicality of just like, you know, karate knowing Elvis in his kung fu jumpsuit.
So who do you reckon possesses enough big dick energy to put up a fight against Elvis?
They don't have to put up a fight, they have to knock him out. They don't necessarily need to possess more big dick energy than Elvis. They just need to be able to like knock him out of the ring. And I'd say you need a big man to do that, because obviously Elvis was a bigger dude later in his life. So I'm going to put forward Marlon Brando, who we discussed before did not give an ounce of a fuck. He would like break into his own fucking fridge and then take bites out of giant wheels of cheese. And would have his mates throw Burger King over his fence when his wife's put him on a diet. But obviously, at the end of his life, he weighed like 300 pounds. Who's going to stop that man? Like, it doesn't matter like how much karate Elvis knows. You don't stop that much girth running towards you. And if you've got like a big man, obviously you want to have the clash of the titans. So you'd have to bring in Orson Welles. Orson Welles as well did not give a fuck.
Well, then if you've got loads of iterations of Bowie, does that mean that later iteration of Elvis are coming to battle the big guys?
Yeah, oh man, that's how you'd start, innit? Like, you start with young Elvis, and then big Elvis comes in. And then like big Elvis like knocks out one of the David Bowie, but then fucking you get Marlon Brando in. You get like big old fat Marlon Brando in, he didn't give a fuck, and he's wearing like an ice bucket on his head in movies, and then asking for an earpiece in his ear because he don't want to learn his fucking lines. And he's like airlifting ham from Tahiti and shit. But then in comes Orson Welles, like on his deathbed, recording the lines for Transformers while drinking all the champagne because he don't give a fuck.
Someone tries to put up a fight again who just tells him to fuck off.
Yeah, and like that's not what Orson Welles would do. He'd walk in and he'd just say fuck off, and then obviously Marlon Brando would go, all right Orson, and walk straight the fuck out. But then obviously you'd need someone who wouldn't fuck off, who wouldn't like, listen to Orson. So then you get like Diogenes rocking up, and he'd come in on like his throne of dogs, just like being carried in like fucking like a sultan or some shit. And he'd walk in, and he literally has his dick hanging out, and he gets inside his big pot, and he uses that and just slap fucking Orson out of the ring, and just sits inside the pot, and that's how he survives.
So if we have a battle of wangs, how about we slide in there, young Jason Statham?
Who we've talked about before.
We have.
Yeah, in a previous video, I don't know when it's going up, but yeah, Jason Statham, in his first appearance in a music video by the band Shaman. It's Coming On, is it?
Coming On Strong.
Coming On Strong, where like people don't know, you've seen the clip already, I'm hoping, but Jason Statham's first appearance, basically he was basically naked in a leopard thong, gyrating at hyperspeed in like, you know, the sky. And I'd like to assume that form is ginormous. So it's like what Jax does in Mortal Kombat when he just goes like 400 foot tall and just stomps on people.
Just imagine an episode of Power Rangers when they have to get the Megazord to defeat Jason Statham.
Oh, the thing is though, that's what you could probably bring in. You could probably bring in all the Power Rangers as well. I think the Power Rangers got big swinging dick energy.
Tommy especially.
Yeah, Tommy, because he don't give a fuck. Because he's been 3 Power Rangers and he don't give a shit. He's the best, he's the legendary Ranger. Jason David Frank absolutely has big dick energy and he knows martial arts. And he's 3 Power Rangers at once. You can't top that. And he's got Saba. You can call him Saba. And then he can, while he's got Saba spinning around the ring, he can just play like, you know, the Dragon Flute. And then the Dragonzord comes in.
I think to satisfy the memers out there as well, seeing as you're wearing a shirt for it, what about Shaggy?
Oh,
he's recently evolved to have big dick energy.
He doesn't have big, he's transcended beyond needing it.
Right.
Like, because obviously he has his own power source, presumably from the same dimension that Cyclops' like punch lasers come from. So I assume that Shaggy doesn't need big dick energy because he's gone beyond it. And as well, he would not like bother himself with like, you know, petty mortal squabbles. Because he's just sat there like Shao Kahn a million miles above the earth, just like observing this like fray with like absolute disdain.
Oh, that Shaggy thing came out of nowhere.
Have you heard as well, like they're trying to get him to be in Mortal Kombat?
I heard them trying to push for it, yeah.
They're trying to get him in Mortal Kombat. And then the thing is though, like, fuck it, like, I'm so annoyed about this. Like, Negan from The Walking Dead is in Tekken 7 and not Mortal Kombat 11. A character known for doing one thing, that's bashing people's skull in with a baseball bat, is not in Mortal Kombat. That's bullshit. Fuck that.
So, I mean, I'm assuming he has no like vicious execution moves.
No, he has the move, but he doesn't kill the person. He just does like 30% damage.
Yeah.
Awesome. And his animations are terrible, which means they'd fit perfectly with Mortal Kombat.
Have they though created Negan under the appearance of Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Yes.
Yeah.
He came in and did the voice.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
He came back in, and they wasted it on Tekken 7.
Yeah.
And so that means you can have Negan fight, Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. Instead of having him go like beat the shit out of Shao Kahn or fucking Baraka or the alien from Mortal Kombat guest stars. I love guest stars. You know what? We're getting off topic. You know what, folks? Work out your own narrative on who wins that one. I can't be honest anymore. I'm off topic now. Done.